the core of financial psychology is that our beliefs inform our behaviours. Our beliefs about money inform the way we behave with money.
This is The Payoff with me, Sylvia Jeffreys. Emma Edwards, welcome to The Payoff podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Delightful to be here with you in your home ground of Melbourne today. I've been following you for quite a while now, so there's a lot I want to talk to you about. But I want to kick it off with what good with money means to you, because you've been working hard at really getting to the bottom of that.
Yes, Good with Money for me, it's the title of my first book, and it was a long and winding road to get to that title, but I'm so glad we landed there, because to me, good with money is this phrase that we throw around a lot, but it perfectly, to me, encapsulates the softer skills of money. You don't sort of look at a billionaire and go, oh, they're really good with money. Or you don't look at a tech bro and go, they're really good with money. I think for me, good with money really comes down to the habits, the behaviours, the way you see yourself, your overall outlook on money, your relationship with money. Getting all of that into a positive place, which a lot of us don't have because money's this like lifelong taboo. Getting all of that on the same page as everything else in your life, and feeling really good about money so that you can behave in a positive and helpful way with money for
Feeling
your
control,
life. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you established the Broke Generation in 2018, were you good with money?
I was on my way. I started it because I wasn't always good with money. And again, that was not coming down to, my assets or anything. I mean, I didn't have any, but it was this kind of inner knowing that I didn't feel good about money. I didn't feel like I was able to manage money well. I didn't feel confident in managing money. And so my journey to becoming good with money was what led me to create the Broke Generation originally, because I realised how much more went into it than just knowing what to do. I tried to set budgets over and over again. I always say the sort of story of my napkin budget. I'd scribble down, when I've got $3 left and it's nearly payday. I'd scribble down everything that would make sense on paper. I'll borrow that from myself and I'll repay that then, and the credit card's got to get paid off, but we'll leave that for now. And it sort of made sense in theory, but the behavioural follow-through never came and the confidence with money never came. So I started really digging deep into my emotional patterns with money, the way that I felt about it, why I was tripping myself up all the time. And that sort of led me to create something that was a bit more in that sort of financial engagement space. There's definitely a financial literacy gap. We need to know what to do. But there's also a financial engagement gap, especially for women, because we've been shut out of these conversations for so long. So that's sort of what led me to it. So it became my journey. And then I sort of, fell in love with finding out why we do the things we do with money, went back and did postgraduate study in financial psychology, and here we are.
Here we are.
In 2026.
I think this is going to really resonate with a lot of people. New year, hopefully new money mindsets, because we know a lot of the time it is our mindset that's holding us back with money. What is something you would say to someone today who's really wanting to break some of their habits and start the new year with a new mindset, a new agenda, and a new approach to their finances?
Two things, especially with it being the new year. Our brains at this point of the year want to scramble to this kind of end destination. We want to think about where we could be in a year if we did everything perfectly, and if I did all of these things, and if I never buy lunch at work again, and if I never pull money out of my savings again, everything will be fine. But the first sort of thing, I think, is to break down what would being good with money look like for the next day or the next week. There's definitely merit in looking ahead, but what we do is we only look ahead, and we try and do 50 good behaviours at once or 50 positive behaviours at once, when history tells us that it's actually really hard to keep up with those things all the time. I heard a really good analogy the other day that if somebody gets, 95% on an exam, a medical exam, they're still a doctor. Nobody gets 100% on everything. I think it was Adrienne Herbert, actually, from the Power Hour podcast, just a cite where I got that from. But we often think that being something or changing our habits around something means doing it perfectly, trying to do everything all at the same time. So stop flirting with this sort of transformation porn, I call it, where you're going to become this perfect person if you just stick to this New Year's resolution. And the second thing is I'm borrowing it from the field of financial psychology. The core of financial psychology is that our beliefs inform our behaviours. Our beliefs about money inform the way we behave with money. What can be helpful is doing an audit of all of the micro behaviours that you feel are not getting you the outcomes that you want.
No. That's confronting.
It is confronting. But the reason it's confronting is because that's actually the core problem. I don't like to say problem because it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, but that's the core thing that's driving it. It's all fun to be like, I'm going to save $20,000 this year, or I'm going to invest $20,000 this year, or I'm going to pay off my debt. They're those big promises that make us feel really good. But what it actually comes down to is what's happening underneath. The behaviours that we want to change are a symptom of these beliefs. So when we do an audit of the things that we feel that we're doing that aren't getting us the outcomes that we want, maybe it's, fully relate here, an emotional spending thing, just a bit of chaos in money, stepping back and thinking about what beliefs would make that behaviour make a lot of sense. That's where we can really start to connect long-term change. Because if we understand, I'll give you an example, a common one is that a lot of people believe that money will just always be really hard. And so if we believe that money will be really hard, the behaviours that can create they don't have to be rational. They can actually create a sense of almost apathy with our finances. You set a budget, but you don't really stick to it because at the end of the day, if it's always going to be hard, what's the point? Do you actually not believe that financial confidence is available to us? Often that is the cause of why we stay in the same cycles.
Okay, let's tap into your behavioural psychology expertise then, and explain to me why, if you were to open my windows right now, my tabs, there are probably 8 online shopping stores with at least 3 things in the carts that have not been purchased, that are just sitting there staring at me every time I open my phone. What is going on? You're allowed to say there's something wrong with me. I fully accept that conclusion. But what is going on with that, do you think?
There's a multitude of things that can be going on, and that's why it's useful to view money from this kind of softer skills of money lens, because the maths is the same for everybody, but the behaviours are different for everybody. I was the same. I had a real compulsion's the wrong word, but a real habit of any time I had money, I was really, really good at spending it. Not so good at holding on to it, but great at spending it. I could find anything to spend money on. And that's what continually tripped me up, because anytime I had money, I couldn't keep it. And underlying that can be beliefs like money will always be hard, I'm just bad with money. There's even, people talk a lot about scarcity mindset, and a lot of people that kind of grow up and internalize a scarcity mindset hoard money. And they're really, on paper, good with money. That's what society celebrates as good with money. They hoard their money and they never spend it, and they're really, really frugal. Everybody knows somebody like this. But on the flip side of that same scarcity mindset can charge
what I'm
spending
doing
behavior. Because if it's going to run out, or if that's the fear that we have, that's what a scarcity mindset comes down to. If we're worried that it's going to run out, it makes sense then that while we have it, we'll use it for something that we want. If budgeting, a lot of people have this kind of internalized idea that budgeting is really restrictive and budgeting means that they can't enjoy anything. Again, if that's how we feel about it, we're never going to stick to it, because why would we? Our brains are looking for enjoyment and comfort and immediate relief at all times. Why would we?
So a big part of this is shifting and reframing the idea of budgeting as sacrifice, as perhaps empowering or exciting. Because once you see the benefits of, being perhaps a bit more deliberate with your money, it can be exciting to see the rewards of that.
Yeah. I mean, my budget, and this is I talk about this in my first book, Good with Money, when I started budgeting with a more positive mindset and building in things that I wanted, I started to see my budget as something that allowed me to have the things I wanted and needed. And if, now the way that I treat money is if I want something, whether it's an ongoing expense or something one-off, I'll kind of bring it to that budget, let's say, and find a way to fit it in. And when you start budgeting that way, and again, this is where micro changes to your behaviour can start shifting those beliefs, because you start experiencing it differently. Everything that we experience with money is evidence for our brains. So if we're trying to put a more positive mindset in there, more positive belief in there, start building things that you like into your budget. And then we start to connect having a budget, organizing your money, with being able to have these things. In my budget, when my money comes in from my salary every month, I put some money into my back pain baddie account because I like to see my osteo and get a remedial massage. I have Hot Girl because I like to get my nails done. You can organize it any which way you want. And of course, I'm speaking from a place of privilege there because those are discretionary expenses. But organizing your money in any sense, it doesn't need to be restrictive. It's actually bringing you peace and calm, and you spot problems so much sooner. If there isn't enough, you can't possibly know that without a budget. And that's when it spirals out of control, and then we get into what's called the shame avoidance cycle, that we feel ashamed that we're not dealing with our money stuff, so that we avoid it, so that we absolve ourselves of that shame.
My producer Jen she's nodding along.
I was like, is there an audio problem, or are you enjoying what I'm saying?
Look, she is like enthusiastically nodding to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, the avoidance becomes a tool to rid ourselves of that horrible feeling, and then the problem just compounds and gets even worse.
Okay, so, how did you switch to the positive budgeting mindset? Because it's easier said than done. What are the practices? What are the practical steps that you took to shift your mindset?
It's a really long process, and that's what nobody wants to hear. That's not a fun social media hack. That's not an instant win. That's not an overnight success. But it actually, and I'm still working on it now. And, I started this 7-8 years ago. Of course, I'm much further along than I was then. It's about deciding to do things differently and experience money differently and see money differently. In the first book, I talk about this thing I call the belief behavior continuum, because you can kind of come at it and go, I'm going to change all my behavior, but then you don't, and you end up by where you started. So then you go, okay, I'm going to change my mindset. So you're like, chanting positive affirmations, or you're meditating, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you're like, but, you might be quite a literal thinker like I am, and think, well, okay, but there still needs to be a connection. When we sort of set up these bite-sized runways where we can set out to do something with money, actually follow through with it just once, and then experience the benefit of that. That's like one rung on the board. Then we create momentum. Any kind of behavior change, you have to have momentum, because once you have momentum, you have something to lose. So if, rather than going, I'm not going to ever spend any money again all year, and I'm going to save all of my money, that feels really exciting at the time, because you start thinking, oh my God, this is going to be this big crescendo transformation. It's finally going to happen. I'm finally going to stick to it. Even though I never have before, I just have a feeling that this time I'm going to stick to it. Instead, we kind of go, as I said in that first tip, what does that look like this week? What can I do this week? What can I do tomorrow? What can I do tomorrow that would be better for my finances than I would do on autopilot? Okay, I'm going to, meal prep that thing. I'm going to pack the leftovers, whatever it might be. And then you've done it for a day and you've got something to lose, because it's a bit like going to the gym. If you've been to the gym yesterday, you're far more likely to go tomorrow. If you say, I'll go on Thursday, I'll go the next day, I'll go the next day, you don't have anything to lose. So you're free to keep self-sabotaging, because there's nothing behind you that you're erasing by doing that. So trying to build up momentum, and that is going to carry you through the rest of whatever it is that you're trying to work towards. And again, thinking about it as a long-term thing. The mindset piece, it sounds woo-woo and it sounds flimsy, but it comes in when you're approaching your behavior change with that mindset. It's not about just thinking differently and having $1 million, though the manifestation gurus may tell you that it is. It's about approaching behavior change from a mindset perspective. You still got to do the things.
You got to do the work. You got to do the stuff.
Yeah, and you know what to do. This is the thing. There isn't a ton of stuff to learn when it comes. We know, we don't like to admit it to ourselves, but often we'll know what the behavior is that we need to change, or we know what we're doing too much of, or we're not doing enough of. It's just getting ourselves to do that with the right mindset.
Can we go back to the shame avoidance of it all? Because at this time of year, I think there's probably a bit of that going on. We know we need to change our habits, but maybe we don't want to look down the barrel of what we're having to break and what our bank balance is sitting at and what I've spent money on. It could be our health, our well-being, all those sorts of things. But what does it look like? What does shame avoidance look like for a lot of people? And what would you say to someone who is sitting in that right now? What are the benefits of tackling it head on?
Shame avoidance looks like not looking at your bank account, kind of getting again to a point where you're going to spend money when I don't want to say shouldn't, but you know that it's not the best decision for you to buy that, spend that, put that on credit, whatever it is we're doing. But we kind of just do it anyway, grit our teeth and be like, oh, it'll be okay. And then we're not checking the account. It can be, at a, more closer to the wire level, it can be avoiding bills and avoiding responsibilities and letting those things pile up. It can even be things like knowing that your annual car registration, car insurance is coming up, but not preparing for it, just kind of thinking, oh, that's an August Emma problem. The other side of that, though, is doing things that will probably feel a lot less dramatic than you think they will. They'll feel a lot less, there'll be a lot less kind of dopamine firing than when you go, I'm going to be really good with money this year. I'm going to fix my finances. But it's much more conducive to the actual outcomes that you want. So, for example, let's take that. I've got a huge bill coming up and I'm just going to not think about it because I haven't got the money and I don't know what to do. Also, when we're in that runway, we're probably going to spend the money that we might have used on other things because we're avoiding the responsibility. But if instead we go, okay, it's due in August, it's $800. Per month, that's $100. If I just put that over there in a bank account, shoebox, under your mattress, whatever you want, then that gradually builds up to be the $800. But let's say you haven't done it perfectly. On 3 or 4 of those months, you've pulled the money out of your savings, you've miscalculated another bill, something else has gone wrong. When we're in shame avoidance, that would make us go, oh, I can't do it. I just can't afford this. It's just too high. I can't do it. I'm just terrible at this. I can't do it. But when we're coming at it with a positive mindset, we go, oh, I haven't done it this month. But hey, if I get to August and I've got $400 towards it, that's better than last year when I had negative $400 towards it. So that mindset steps in and stops every slip up becoming a derailer. And that's how we get away from the shame avoidance, because the shame doesn't come up. We combat the shame with the replaced belief or the more open or more neutral belief. And then we don't avoid and let the problem compound.
So in everything that you do, you've described your work as a destination for hot mess millennials. Is it just the millennials who are a hot mess? And do they have specific issues, unique issues to them compared to other generations?
Yes. In all honesty, I actually do probably need to change that line. That was the line I set up when I first set up my website. And I actually saw it this morning and thought, yeah, I really must update that. But I'm still working on that. It's the thing with the personal brand business. You get older and you're not 26 anymore. And you're like, I set up the whole brand like I was 26.
Yeah.
But for millennials, yes, because we're the generation that got told we're just buying too much avocado on toast and that's why we can't buy a house. And I often have to kind of be quite clear in my teaching that even though I'm helping you maybe not buy that cart full of stuff that you don't really want or need, doesn't mean I subscribe to that suggestion. The housing market is an entirely different beast.
It's insane.
It's ridiculous. And, we're saddled with student loan debt. There hasn't been any wage growth for however long. There's a lot of things going against us as a generation. That's, a systemic problem. But then we've got this other sort of environment where we've grown up through MSN Messenger after school, the early days of Instagram when you pretty much like whacked the toaster filter on a photo of a night out, and that was as far as it went.
It was so dramatic, wasn't it?
It had like edges, and it was sort of crinkled, vile. And
that wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't
like
that long
10
ago.
years? Yeah.
Bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
Bit more, maybe 12.
I love the toaster filter.
It made me look so good.
It made me look tanned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. It's, we started off engaging with social media and the internet when, people might remember, depending on where in the millennial bracket you fall, people might remember when like online shopping came out. People were like, why would you want to buy stuff online? Like,
do you remember your first Hotmail email address, your first email address?
Pink Rocks 100.
Mine was Silvo86.
That's not too bad, honestly.
Everyone called me Silvo, and everyone in Queensland had an O on the end of their name in high school.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I didn't even like pink. I don't know why I picked Pink Rocks. Honestly, Pink Rocks 100. Vile.
It's classy.
Vile. But that's how we've engaged with things. And we've been the first to buy stuff online. We've been the first that have been able to have, next day delivery. We've moved through Instagram from the days of the toaster filter to now where you're scrolling, you're getting ads, there's links you can click on, there's just everything. And then surrounding all of that has just been this hyper commercialization of everything. I remember when, and this really wasn't that long ago because I was in Melbourne, so it's definitely in the last 10 years. My friend said that she was house sitting in like St Kilda or something for a neighbour. And she was like, I'm literally by one street in the Uber Eats delivery zone.
Wow.
And because you couldn't really get it, like there was like 4 stores on there, you couldn't really, and everyone was like, what is this? Like you can get delivery from like non-takeaway. What? All of this stuff is so new for us. And so we've grown up in this economic environment where all of the normal things that you would spend your money on and that you would work towards are completely out of reach. Can't buy a house unless you've got inheritance. You can't buy a house, and unless you've got help. It's very, very difficult to buy property. Even then, what you're buying is, you're trucking out of the city to be able to afford something, or it's an apartment, and then you buy it, and the value hasn't changed in 7 years. All of these things. It's so completely different. Dating is so much harder. People aren't settling down. People aren't having children as much. The birth rate is falling. And of course, that's our fault too, because of the world. There's climate change, all of these things. Alongside all of that, we've had all of these other things that have become a lot more affordable. We can afford a lot more non-essentials. We can't afford the essentials, but we can afford a lot more non-essentials than ever before. And there's 100,000 versions of everything. There's a million places to get everything, and they'll deliver it to your door tomorrow. And while our needs have got more and more expensive, our wants have got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And so to compensate, I suppose, in a way, we're spending our money on more lifestyle things because we're not living the security lifestyle that other previous generations would have worked for and would have strived for and would have had. So instead, we order Uber Eats and we order takeaway, or we buy things online, or we get facials, or whatever it might be. And because of all of those kind of marketing tactics that feed into that, it starts up these cycles where that's what we spend our money on. And so,
because we've given up on those big ticket items, those big milestone items.
And so all of these companies, ka-ching, because all of our disposable income has been conditioned in a way to spend on these things largely because we can't have these other things. And then they've gone, oh, that's because of that, so it's all your fault.
Well, and we also live in the age of comparison thanks to social media. So, we've never got enough. When you scroll through Instagram, someone's got something that you want every single hour of the day. So it feeds into that cycle. Yeah.
And, you look at our lifestyles and just about every single point of friction that we've experienced has been replaced by a solution that you can purchase. Or, a lot of the content that I do on social media is around, the onflow of diet culture, how that got commercialized. I tell a story in my first book about how I spent like 3 hours pay when I was about 21 on some cellulite cream that you supposedly, you put it on and you sit down and it supposedly busts your cellulite. Of course it doesn't work.
I would have tried it.
Of course. But that wasn't an isolated thing. It was anything that would fix me, that would, all of these problems that were being thrown in my face. Oh God. I remember, I've done a lot of work around that sits alongside my money stuff, but I remember when I saw some stuff about like body care routines became a thing, and like people like what they like, whatever. But I remember thinking, oh my God, am I going to have to worry about the skin on my arm? Like something else to worry about now. Now I've got to worry about whether the skin on my arms is smooth. Like I'm tired. I can't take any more. But all of these things, there's always something to buy. It's never something that's free. It's always something to buy.
And it's always tapping into our vulnerabilities, isn't it?
Yes. Any insecurity can make somebody a lot of money.
We've spoken a lot, and we haven't even spoken about the Wardrobe Project yet, your brand new book. So sit tight. We're going to have a very quick break, have a glass of water. We'll come back and we're going to unpack this year of not buying anything. The Wardrobe Project. Okay, this is all about not buying anything new for a whole year. That sounds like Mission Impossible. Where did this start for you? Why did it start for you?
So, the Wardrobe Project was my personal experiment to not buy any clothes for a whole year. And it started, so I did this year, despite the book coming out now, I did this year in 2023. Because around that time, particularly here in Victoria and Melbourne, we were, a deep breath shy of lockdown in 2022. And we didn't really know what was going to happen. Borders were starting to open, but we were like, are they going to slam shut again? It was a very odd time. And I realised in that time that I had really slid back into some old buying habits, specifically with clothes. Clothes have always been my sort of Achilles heel in my finances in general. They're like my thing. I like to buy them. And I'd done a lot of work on my spending habits more generally in my pursuit of being good with money, writing my first book, saving, paying off my debt, investing, all that kind of stuff. But that sort of difficult period of the 2 years of lockdown really threw me back into this position where I was trying to outsource my identity and my confidence to new outfits. I think that comes down to the fact that, you know, a lot of us had body changes during lockdown. Some people
We were wearing a lot of stretchy pants.
The first day you put those jeans back on,
It's a big wake-up call.
and you're going back out into the world for the first time as the version of yourself that, you know, there was a lot of pressure to come out better than you had gone in. And the first couple of lockdowns, I was like bang into that. I was working the whole time. I was side hustling. So I was like, yeah, let's, finally change my life. I was stuck inside for 3 months. But I think when the gravity of it all hit, and it turned into this, at one point we thought we might be inside for 3 months and then we'd be out. But when it turned into this much kind of bigger life moment and, big milestones were missed and you hadn't seen family for a really long time. And, I went in age 29 and came out age 31. I had all these things I wanted to do by the time I was 31. I had this person I wanted to be, which admittedly was a toxic standard. But I think I was trying to compensate for not being that person or having lost those years or, having let myself go.
It's a big milestone. Your 30th is a big milestone.
Yeah, I'd wanted to do this party. I've never really done a birthday party before. I wanted to do that. Didn't. Anyway, that was the whole thing. But I think that I relied on buying clothes to try and present this version of myself that I was happy with, even though I wasn't. I was in a job at the time that was really not right for me. It was really making me miserable. I lost some weight during lockdown. I put on some weight during lockdown. I just really I just had this habit of trying to buy this personality, this version of myself that I wanted. And so I realized that throughout that year, I bought some things and I just thought, I still don't feel like I have anything to wear. I'm looking at these, literally clothes that I could wear. Even if I don't feel the way I want to, I could wear them. So I thought, I know that logistically I could go a year without buying clothes. And I thought, well, it might be a challenge, but maybe maybe it'll be a really good thing to push myself to. Maybe I'll get more wear out of my stuff. Maybe I'll stop feeling like I have nothing to wear. And I was doing my end of year sort of money reflection, as I do, because I'm good with money. And I added up all of the money I would have spent on clothes during 2022. And it was about $5,500, which in all honesty, I thought it would be higher than that. And so I tried to get, maybe it's not that bad. And then I sort of thought, well, actually, I was leaving this job that wasn't going well and I was going to be self-employed full-time for the first time. And I thought, well, if I just change this one behaviour, that's $5,000 that I would have spent on default back in my budget. So I thought, well, that's all the convincing I need. Great. I'll do this and I'll save some money and maybe I'll talk about it on social media and I might learn something. How good. But the primary thing was this $5,000. I thought, perfect. One tiny behaviour change, the money's released back in. It turned out to be so much more than that. Yes, I didn't obviously spend that money. People often want the smoking gun of how much I saved, which is really hard because I never know what I would have done. But I kind of put that $5,000 label on it.
And did you do something with that $5,000?
Sort of. I unfortunately had, during the year, actually, I had a really unfortunate streak of like health stuff. That's really where the money went into. I didn't have, specifically that's the money I would have spent.
But that's money you wouldn't have had to spend on those that maybe would have gone onto a credit card.
Exactly. So that was really kind of helpful that I had that. It did take that pressure off my budget as I'd hoped for. But it really turned into something else entirely, actually. It was the first couple of months were as I'd expected. I was putting together outfits I hadn't worn before. I was, there's this rule that we wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time. And I was really trying to challenge that and be like, just wear all of it. Yeah. So I was wearing everything. But really by the end of the year, it fundamentally changed me forever because it changed the way that I saw myself and that, I call it in the book, the fantasy self. The fantasy version of myself that I'd kept trying to buy into, the thing that kept me buying and buying and buying, was gone. I was buying, well, I wasn't buying, but when I returned to buying, I was able to finally buy for who I really am and what I actually look like. I've always been a bit bigger. I've always been, in that mid-size, plus-size category. So size really fueled a lot of that fantasy for me. And I've always held a lot of shame around being bigger, and that's been something I've always tried to fix. But I think it must have been about September, October in the year, I realized that my body image was the best it had ever been, even though I was the biggest I had ever been. But I wasn't even thinking about the fact I was the biggest I'd ever. I wasn't body checking. I wasn't worrying what size was on the label. It just wasn't there anymore. And I thought, I didn't expect consumption to be upholding that so much.
Did you find that was it like breaking a habit? Was it like were you getting withdrawals? Were you wanting to get online and put things in a cart? Was there a real withdrawal process?
A little bit. I did have periods of time where I would see something that really caught my eye, and I would get this like quite intense emotional flooding where outside of the project, outside of the challenge, that would have shut down all my rational thinking, and I would have gone, oh, well, I'll get it. And, all these justifications. I talk about the stories our brain will construct to allow us to behave the way we want to in the moment with money. And because I committed to the challenge, and again, we talked before about momentum, and this was really good in this instance because I had so much to, by August, I wasn't going to blow it for one thing. So it kind of, I talk a bit about the mental peace that came from it. Even though I would have those feelings of wanting something, the fact the decision was made for me by the challenge was remarkable.
Because fashion can feel like a hamster wheel, right? And you're constantly trying to keep up with the new drops that happen every few weeks. And
it's exhausting.
The new flooding on social media of fits and whatever else. So what were the ground rules for you? What did you set yourself as a framework for this project?
Yes, everybody, I remember when I first talked about it on social media and people were so interested. I was like,
can I buy new undies?
This is a thing. What if you need new underwear? Just buy new underwear.
Okay.
Unless you're over-consuming underwear, which I don't think many people are.
Activewear. What about activewear? Because it gets a bit sweaty and yucky after a while.
Yeah. Look, my rules for the challenge were this. No clothes that I considered were, hedonic. Things that were nice, things that were outfits, things that I wanted to wear. I kind of thought, if I don't have a uniform for work, but if something that I only had one of that I really needed kind of wore out or broke or whatever, I would have replaced it. It didn't really happen. The other thing, I was allowed underwear, and initially I allowed shoes as well because I don't really buy shoes. So I thought, well, it's not. I didn't really think about it. I thought, oh, does it count? Does it not count? I don't think it counts because I'm not really buying them. Halfway through the year, I did bring them in because I found myself sort of looking at shoes because they were allowed.
Because one thing you could
and I thought,
tap into. Yeah.
I did buy one swimsuit during the year because I didn't count. Again, I've got one bathing suit. It wasn't something that I overconsumed. But when I talk to other people about this and they go, can I do this? Can I do that? What if this happens? And I kind of make a joke in the book, if you get invited to a cowboy-themed birthday party and a red carpet event and a Taylor Swift, if all of that happens, just trust that you'll find a way.
Borrow.
Yeah.
Rent.
You'll work it out. Thrift, whatever it is. The big rule that people don't like is that I said no secondhand.
Yeah.
No op
Why
shopping.
did you say that?
Because for me, op shopping, thrifting, secondhand, Depop, whatever, it was just overconsumption with a clean conscience and a lower price tag. Because it was almost even harder because there's a genuine scarcity of stock. You can't go, I'll wait 24 hours because someone else will have gone in there and found it. The real kind of thrill of the hunt of op shopping, I'd find something that I didn't really like that much. But if it was Dior and it was $12, I'd be like, I have to get it because it's such a bargain, even though it doesn't even fit. I've bought things that are like a size 8 before. Not once in my life have I ever fit into a size 8, but I'm like, it's such a good purchase. I'll make it work. Yeah, I'll sew it. All those things we tell ourselves. I'll get it altered. So yeah, they were my rules. But if you're interested in doing this type of thing for yourself, just trust that you'll overcome any of those anomalies when you do. Don't think it will take away from what you're doing with the project. If I had got invited, the one thing I didn't have would have been a ball gown or a formal black tie dress. If I'd got invited to an event that needed that, and even if I'd gone out and bought one brand new from somewhere, it wouldn't have changed the other stuff. So I don't think we need to focus on getting a clean sheet as much as we think we do. The other thing is when you're choosing what to limit, what your cycles are. You know what you overconsume. If you are overconsuming bras, yeah, stop with the bras. If you do buy swimsuits all the time, if you've got 18 bikinis, yeah, add them in. If you do buy too many shoes. But if you don't,
Jeans,
a lot of
blazers and t-shirts, guilty.
Definitely. A lot of people go, what about, like band merch? What if I go and see Oasis?
I just bought 2 pieces of Oasis merch.
But like, that's a once in a lifetime
I know.
experience.
Thank you for being my neighbour.
Like, I think that's fine. Whereas I've had people, I run an accountability program for this periodically, and I've had people in there that, I had one lady who's actually shared her story in the book, and one of her big areas of overconsumption was merch, because she would go to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 concerts a month. So for her, it was included because she overconsumes that.
Uh-huh.
So it's really, what your vices are, where you're going to run into friction.
To be honest with yourself.
Yeah, you really, people want a recipe for what do I need to do to have you need to do some self-reflection and set it up to be something that's going to benefit you. Because if I go allow shoes, I did, but actually your weakness is shoes, it's not going to work,
Be honest with yourself. Okay, you've developed the mindful buying toolkit throughout this project. You probably don't want to give it all away because we want people to read the book, right? But can you give us a sense of what that looks like? What are some of the elements of that people can perhaps apply to their own lives?
Yes, obviously, do get a copy of the book and read it. But this it makes an interesting point that the book isn't just about the year. I talk about the year after as well, and what it was like returning to shopping, which is interestingly one of the richest kind of parts of the journey.
What was it like returning to shopping? And how often do you do it now?
Well,
because you look fabulous today, might I say.
Thank you.
This is a beautiful outfit. And you came in wearing the most fabulous trench coat as well.
Well, that was actually circular economy given to me by a friend. And then this suit that I'm wearing, I actually bought it secondhand from Depop. It was $15 for both pieces, and I dyed it to the colour I wanted. Yeah, it was green to begin with.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How do you do that? I wouldn't even know where to start.
Grit dye. Just don't wash your husband's, not that I wash my husband, don't allow your husband to use the washing machine for his whites after.
Good
because
tip.
I stain them all pink.
Okay.
They have
so then you had to
since
go and
been
buy
salvaged.
many. Okay, good.
I was like, we're not, I was dyeing this to buy less
This
stuff.
is
We're
not
buying.
in the wardrobe project. No.
Yeah. I was nervous to go back to buying because I thought, will I just go back to the way that I was? I definitely didn't go back to the way that I was. I think the biggest challenge of buying again was that I knew so well now how to buy better. So I wasn't buying for my fantasy self. I buy things that I genuinely love that I cannot wait to wear again. The problem now, or the challenge, I suppose, is making sure that I don't buy too much of the right thing. Because before I was buying too much of the wrong thing. You can change that behaviour to buy the right thing. But you still need, as I said before, that this environment that we live in, there is still more and more and more. You have to I employ strategies, I suppose, that I learned during the project all the time. Because I see so many things, especially now I've really found my style. I see so many things I could buy.
Yeah.
What I'm a lot better at is neutralising that.
And so you tell people in the toolkit, the buying toolkit, to identify their own style concept. What is yours?
My style concept is espresso with whipped cream.
Fabulous.
You're going to be like, what the hell? It was an idea that I had while I was thinking about, putting the project learnings into something like a book. And I realised that I was drinking this coffee with whipped cream. And I kind of thought, this is kind of like me. Like if I was a coffee, I'd be this one. Like it's that sort of something quite staple, but then like a bit of whipped cream on top. And it came to me because around that time, the iced latte style was a thing online. People were saying, iced latte aesthetic or whatever. And it was that sort of, an oversized boxy blazer, wide leg beige trouser, very sort of polished, put together, Pinteresty. And I kind of thought, I'm not really that. I'm this. And I started to think about the value of anchoring your style to something visual or a feeling, something from nature, a plant, a place. Maybe your style is Greek island, just for example. That means something to you specifically. And it allows you to approach style from a you-centered place rather than all that external noise. So now I sort of think, does this link to my sort of espresso with whipped cream, the sort of the side topic I took that to was like basics with benefits. So for example, the trench coat I came in with today, it's a trench coat, but it has pearls all down it. That's exactly it. It's basics, but like with a bit of something.
A little something, something.
I wear a lot of, you know, blazers, jeans when I do events or whatever, blazers and jeans or a black suit. But then I've got these enormous, my husband thinks they're foul, these enormous Ganni velvet orange platforms.
Amazing.
And they're what bring the whipped cream.
Gotcha.
I'm not the basics girl. What I tried to be for so many years was the polished Pinterest girl with the loafers and the, you know, the Gucci loafers and the mum jeans trend with a blazer. I'm sort of that, but I've got this black blazer now that for years I tried to get that perfect black blazer that made me look casual and cool. Now I've got this one that's got this big poofy sleeve.
Yeah.
And it's a black blazer for all intents and purposes, but it's just a bit
Zhuzh.
something else. Yeah. So I use that by subtle details like the pearls on the trench coat or the shape in the blazer or the velvet, like a basic outfit with a big shoe, or I'll use it with colour. So if there isn't any specific details, I've got like my signature brand colour of orange, which is the same colour as the book, same colour as my business assets. So if I'm wearing something basic, there'll be orange involved, or like my nails are always orangey red, always. So it sort of forms this, again, it's very, you know, somebody else couldn't go, oh yeah, I'll have that. It's not that copying other people's style. It brought it back to me. And it's interesting because, you know, I talked about how my shopping habits were linked to my body image issues. That boldness that I've allowed myself to lean into, you know, it sounds kind of frivolous, but it's actually a big step because I'm allowing myself to be seen. What I was trying to do before was look like everybody else, trying to blend in. I would buy things if they made me look thin. If I looked remotely plus size, of course I always look plus size, it's my body. But, you know, clothes can create illusions and stuff. I was just kind of chasing anything that made me smaller. Whereas now, I proudly wear things untucked. When you've got a big hips and bum and lower half, you're told for years you have to tuck in, you have to cinch at your waist. It's really uncomfortable when you're on your period.
Really is.
Really uncomfortable. Yep. I've got fibroids. Like, I'm packing a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not comfortable. Or wear about, bring it in. Yeah. And sometimes it's fun to create those shapes. But if I don't want to, I don't. And I don't care if I look bigger. I honestly don't. And the boldness, the colour, especially at the moment where things, you know, there's, what's it called, clean girl aesthetic is huge at the moment. Very, very, you know, petite, minimal, clean, tiny, beige,
unattainable
white.
for 98% of women.
But here I am leaning into colour more than I ever have because I feel confident enough to do that. And, you know, when I wear those big Ganni platforms, I'm enormous. I'm tall because I'm about 5'9" anyway. Where when I wear a big heel, I'm pushing 6 foot. I'm a bigger woman, and I've always tried to get tiny. And I remember I used to get so frustrated when people that were petite said they wanted to be taller. And I'm like, I just want to be tiny. I just want to be small. But now I'm not like that. Now I'm okay with who I really am, and I'm okay to be seen by that. Yeah,
we are who we are. So when I had my babies 14 months apart, so
wow.
I had a very intense period of pregnancy, post-pregnancy, and during that period, I found myself getting really down on myself whenever I looked at Instagram. So I actively started to unfollow. It's not their fault; they weren't trying to make me feel bad about myself, but I could identify what was going on in my own head. So I unfollowed anyone who was making me feel bad about myself because they were tiny and they had all the latest things and they were whatever. Are there triggers for you like that on social media? Do you have a rule with social media about how you protect yourself from things that make you feel bad?
Yes. Unfollowing, muting is really good. I think for me, I had to be careful of unfollowing. I would unfollow the people that were making me feel bad and buy from that place. Who I love to follow is like plus size fashion creators and stuff. The problem there is I see too much stuff that I like.
Yeah.
So
that's problematic.
The discipline still has to come in. But definitely with those triggers, it's really auditing your environment. I touch on it in my second book, but I kind of refer people back to my first book. I talk about these sort of 3 phases of spending money: the activation zone, the decision zone, and the reflection zone. The activation zone is really everything that happens around you that sends you into wanting to buy something. So the things you see online, the messaging that you're dwelling on, again, as you say, people aren't trying to make you feel, some of them are. Broadly speaking, people aren't trying to make you feel bad about yourself. You're just taking something and making it mean something about you, making it match one of those beliefs about yourself. Oh, this is wrong with me. I need to buy this to fix it. Really understanding what pushes you into that decision zone where you're considering a purchase. I paid a lot of attention to that throughout the year. I actually took myself to stores to look at clothes and be tactile with them and meet that desire, meet myself moving into that zone, to see what was going on there, to like put it into a petri dish and examine it. And yeah, it really comes down to seeing other people that had that aesthetic I was chasing. Like I said, I was new to self-employment at that time. So there was kind of I was having some challenges in, I guess, being out there on my own, trying to make all my money to pay my bills and stuff. And I had left that job that wasn't good for me, so I felt extra pressure to succeed. And so for me, a big trigger was seeing other people that were much further along in their business journey than me, and what they were wearing and how they were presenting themselves. And I kind of tried to chase that in the absence of being able to have the business success, confidence, experience that they had. I would chase the way they were presenting themselves. So I had this sort of phase of wanting to have that like pink suit aesthetic. Totally not me. As I said before, I don't even like pink. But again, compared to where I am now, this is so much more me, and it's not borrowed from somebody else.
Okay, we're almost out of time. But for anyone who is going to embark on the wardrobe project in 2026, tell them what they're going to take out of it.
Oh, so many things. First of all, definitely think about doing it, because a lot of people are starting to do this, and it's a real conversation starter. You'll probably find other people that are doing something as well. If you're not ready to commit to the whole year, just do a month or 3 months and then revisit it. What you're going to get out of it is you're going to completely see all of those stories that your brain tells yourself about why you need something and how it's going to change your life. Stepping back from that, you can see it all laid out, and you can be like, oh my God. Again, that piece I talked about from the decision being made for you, that leaves your brain so clear to understand the things, the justifications that you would otherwise make. You're going to see yourself totally differently, especially if you do some of the things I talk about in the book. I mention how when I liked an outfit that I wore, I took a photo in the mirror, just dusty mirror and all, hair not done, whatever. Took a photo and added it to an album on my phone to refer back to when I was telling myself I had nothing to wear. Not only is this helpful from a logistical perspective, really helpful at a change of season as well. Because when it gets cold and you're like, what are sleeves? Like, how do I dress for cold weather? You can go back and you're like, oh yeah, I do really like that outfit. But you're also going to get used to being your own inspiration. Rather than looking at other people online, looking at people on Pinterest, looking at styles that you see that are trending, you're looking at pictures of you. So your expectations of what you're going to look like and what your style is are actually grounded in things that are attainable rather than all these unattainable standards. The other thing is you're probably going to save money. So not just during the year, but onwards from that. You will change your buying habits over the long term. What you won't get is an easy cheat sheet to changing everything. Like I said, I still feel that desire to buy things that I not only don't need, but legitimately don't even want. Our brains will play tricks on ourselves. There's things, I have this mantra now, just because I like it doesn't mean I want it. People think I'm going to go just because I like it doesn't mean I need it. We know we don't need it. It's a hedonic clothing purchase. I like to remind myself I don't actually want it. You'll get very aware of how your state can change. You might see something that you want, and then because you're not buying, because it's the project, you'll revisit it again in a month, or you'll remember that you saw it and you'll go, oh my God, I thought I wanted it so badly, but life has gone on. Here I am without it, surviving. Wow.
It's a miracle.
I went to that wedding and I wore something I'd worn before. And here I am. Do you know what I mean? It really takes all of that noise out of all of those answers that we think lie elsewhere. And the kind of best part is you'll probably find ways to get the creativity and the joy that you think you're buying from clothing, but with what you already have. I get more joy now from putting together an outfit with my existing wardrobe. Summer's coming around again. I'm not thinking about what's in stores. I'm thinking about wearing that dress that I haven't been able to wear for the last 6 months because it's been cold. And that was when I really knew that something had fundamentally changed, because I wasn't tempted by all of those things. Even though I can see nice things and go, oh, I can easily go, but I have this already.
Yeah.
And the joy, you know, I say in the book, what a privilege it is to outfit repeat. What a privilege it is to get an invitation to a party and go, oh, yes, I can wear that dress again.
That dress again. How liberating. I love this.
It's so nice. Honestly, it's life-changing.
This is awesome, Emma. Congratulations on the book, and thank you for being so generous with your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Sylvia.
Pleasure.